All right. Let's do this. Let's see here. What you doing, Bill? All right, so in this video, I'm going to be addressing the many comments um by what was his name? Or her, I don't know. Fizzy Creature 6359. Who thinks that well, they called me an idiot, you know, quite interesting. Many of the things they said, but first I want to talk about a comment. That's getting some views. Look at that. Yes, this video is probably gonna be all over the place a bit because I am kind of ADHD and yeah, no script as usual. So, well, dang. I'm just trying to see if like how many impressions it has, like what the CTR is, because I changed the thumbnail kind of pretty recently. So, okay. Oh, look at that. Would you look at that? 2.1. I guess it's not horrible for me, but yeah, AVD is terrible. Anyway, so yeah, I saw a new comment on this video. That's what it was. Okay, so you can read this if you'd like, but yeah, I replied to this. Someone liked it. And then this person said, Male Kith 33 said, God can use bad things to do good? Yeah, like what? Tell me what great ideas God came up with when he allowed children to die. He's limitless, so we can't understand him. Yes, that is what I believe. I mean, after all, none of us created ourselves, and so like it wouldn't make sense for us to be able to fully comprehend that which created us. So yeah. Sorry, my cat. And then as far as this question, I don't know. Why are you asking me? Like, I mean, again, I feel like reading comprehension is really like dwindling, I guess, because I literally said, just because one cannot see how something. Belle, she loves to chase. She loves to chase food. Just because one cannot see how something could be used for good does not mean that thing. It's impossible for that thing to be used for good. I don't know what she's doing. One sec. Kitty. Oh, are you being a little stinker? You're being a stinker. Stinker, no. Alright. Put this back. Oh boy. I'm getting too old for this, man. Anyway, getting too old to deal with my cat. No. Alright. But no, yeah. So, yeah. Anyway. So yeah, I just wanted to address that. Now let's look at this whole very long comment thread. Yeah, conversation between me and Fizzy Creature. So it said, "Love thy neighbor unless they're different, right?" Well, I said, "Did you watch the video? Loving someone doesn't mean never upsetting them." And he said, he didn't answer my question, first of all, whether or not he watched the video. But he said, I was going to read all this. Telling someone to change who they are as a person because you don't like it isn't love. I hate to burst your bubble. You can't preach your hate as love by saying, well, I'm only being awful to you because I'm not, because if I'm not, you'll continue to drag yourself towards hell. That is not love, you goofball. It's like he thinks that he's actually like sounding clever, but it's really not. Now again, it's like I never did this. I never preached hate as love by saying that. Like I never did that. So that's the first thing to note. And then, this was my reply. Never have told someone to change who they are because I don't like it. I've not behaved in an awful manner toward anyone. You're making these claims but providing zero proof. Sounds like you're the goofball. You literally regurgitate the same argument every hateful Christian regurgitates. Well, it's love because if I don't do this, then they'll suffer eternally. Be creative and come up with your own thoughts. Everyone has heard your rationale for your bigotry. Gosh, again, so creative, just automatically calling me a bigot just because I object to, their lifestyle and the ideas. It just doesn't make sense to anyone that doesn't have a rock in their head. Just because an argument is unoriginal doesn't mean it isn't a good argument. How about you be creative and not immediately call me a bigot like several people have already done simply because I say what I believe to be true. It's kind of ironic, that they say, come on, be creative, and then they do what several people have already done, which honestly, it's getting pretty old at this point. People just immediately calling me a bigot, saying, oh, you're spreading bigotry, you're a bigot, like, it's honestly getting old. It's like they say it, and then they never point to something I said that was bigoted. They just say I'm a bigot, and it's just, again, it's getting rather old at this point. So anyway, and let's see, there's something else I was gonna say that. Again, just because something is unoriginal doesn't mean it's not true. Like, I mean, I could say, like, imagine I'm talking with someone about, I don't know, like, well, hold on. My cat is still being a little stinker. Kitty, what happened, Belle? Okay, so right now, if I'm talking to, I don't know, let's say I'm talking to Alex O'Connor. He's cool, right? About, let's see, what could we be talking about? About, okay, how about this? About logical fallacies, right? He's a philosopher, and I love his video about confusing ChatGPT with every logical fallacy. I need to rewatch it maybe, but anyway, and like let's say we're talking about logical fallacies. He asks me, "What's your favorite logical fallacy?" And I say, I think I gotta say the fallacy is my favorite one. And he goes, "How unoriginal! What? Pick a different one." Like a lot of people, maybe most people, would say that that's their favorite fallacy, the fallacy. Like, be creative, man. It's like, well, okay. Like, I mean, it's true. Like, that's my favorite logical fallacy. Now, I'm not saying it is, by the way, but I mean, I don't know. Is that my favorite? I have to think about that. But yeah. So like, one sec. So you get my point. It's like, well, it is my favorite. Like, just because it's not original doesn't mean, So, I think you get my point. Now let's see here. Lord, we got a goofball and a liar. I don't debate disingenuous people. If you aren't even capable of holding consistent beliefs, what's the point of arguing if you'll just change what you believe when someone points out your beliefs are irrational? You're saying you treat gay people with the same love and respect as you do straight people, or are you lying to me saying you aren't a bigot? I'm far from perfect, but yes, I certainly try to. No, I'm not a bigot. That's the reply to that. And then, where have I not been capable of holding consistent beliefs? I don't think I got an answer to that, but say you're not a you say you're not a bigot, but preach bigotry. Again, where's your examples? Examples, please. I'm waiting. Please. There's a reason Christianity is losing popularity as time goes on. When people start to think with that thing in their head, they start to find the many issues. You missed a comma there. With your imaginary creator. You need God to be real to justify your hate of different people. That's why people call you a bigot. Yeah, but like, what? Come on. Examples? I'm still waiting on examples. Can you give me an example? Please give me an example of an issue with my imaginary creator. Your imaginary creator, it's stated to be, I don't know, that doesn't make sense, to be all-loving and all-powerful, yet still allows children to be born with cancer. This God cannot exist and must be imaginary because no creator would give they love a curse for absolutely no reason. There's just so many flaws with that. And I say, why should any human think their understanding of reality is greater than God's? I don't recall saying I understand reality better than whatever created it. I said a God that is all loving and all powerful cannot possibly be what created our universe is what he meant to say. Anyway, but here's the thing: when you say that, and I actually explain it in the next comment. But if God knows everything and understands everyone, he will create someone/something in the precise manner he chooses, unique flaws included, because he knows things we don't. Actually, he knows everything we don't know. To say God must not be good because he allows suffering to exist is to say our intellect surpasses God's, which is an extraordinarily foolish thing to say. Humanity chose to disobey God to begin with. The serpent, aka Satan, which is the spirit of the intellect, gone most horribly wrong, came to Eve and caused her to question what God said and God's intentions. She chose to disobey God and eat of the fruit of the tree. I'm sure you're familiar with the story. God said not to eat from. Then she showed it to Adam, and Adam ate of it too, which was a mistake. Sin exists because humanity chose to disobey God. I should have maybe capitalized that word, but anyway. Just because you can't seem. I accidentally added. Just because you can't see the reason doesn't mean there isn't a reason. This God you're speaking of cannot be all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful. I'm not saying there's no creator. I'm saying the Christian depiction is incorrect because the way our world is and the way the Bible is formatted does not allow for an all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing God. There are contradictions in the text that do not allow this God to exist if you think rationally for 10 seconds. Thanks for bringing up Adam and Eve, by the way. The story is one of those many contradictions. If this Christian God was all-loving and all-knowing, why would he ever doom Adam to be cursed with sin by creating Eve, even with the knowledge that Eve will eat that apple? If he was actually all-knowing, then the creation of Eve will always result in humanity discovering sin. This God either is not all-knowing, he didn't know Eve would eat the apple, or he does not love his creations. He made Eve to curse Adam with sin. I see what they're saying. And then, which was he referring to there? This one. That's not an argument. Really, it's not an argument. You just don't understand God's love. It does not justify God doing things to his creations that are inherently evil. It's like, dude, you have to be able to explain how the things he do are the result of love. You can't just say, well, you just don't get it. That's not how arguments work. Really? Really, bro? Seriously? Okay, so I have to be able to explain God and everything God does. You understand how ridiculously stupid that sounds? We're talking about God here, the creator of the universe. Again, how can one understand God? Now, I think we can get to know God. Like we can slowly, begin to understand more and more about him. But how can one fully comprehend God? Like fully. I mean, seriously? Because that's what you're saying. Like, you have to be able to explain how the things he does are the result of love. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Why? Why do you have to be able to explain how the things he does? Like, says who? Why? Tell me why. Like, that's not how arguments work. Well, when you're talking about the creator of the universe, it actually makes quite a bit of sense to say that, in my opinion. And also, again, like, what evidence do you have that the things that God has done to his creations are inherently evil? How do you know that? How do you know they are? How do you know they're inherently evil? Just because someone is born with Down syndrome, for example. reminder: there's no physical evidence of this God. So when someone brings up things in the story that make it not make sense, the reason they don't believe the story, saying they just don't understand, is literally supporting them not being Christians. As if the story actually made sense, there would be no argument opposing Christianity. How do you know? Like, how do you know? Also, what was it like? The Noah's Ark, like the recent, or I think somewhat recently, there was something about that. Ark found, yeah, something, I forget. Okay, so it's not been found. Okay, it's a natural rock structure. Okay, well, interesting. Tunnels to mitigate man-made vessel. Interesting. Yeah, April. That's right. Yeah, it was pretty recent. Possible proof that Noah's Ark existed. Let's see here. Oh yeah, my account's banned. Alright, so might really. What are the odds this might really be Noah's Ark? I'll place the odds at 0%. Wood doesn't last that long. What do you mean? Sorry, I think I have to ship. Oh, you meant it today. Yes, very unlikely. Interesting. Great stuff. Yeah. All right. No coated egg with black substance. It is the egg. Coated it in pitch. It does not explain how it turned into a metal ore that is 1,000 times heavier than a boat could be. It's not metal ore, Mr. Ron said. It's decayed wood, and in fact, it's metal ore. Speaking is dolomite, huh? It's petrified wood, huh? This is interesting. Petrified wood, lava. What lava? It isn't hollow. It is vaguely bow shaped. The Big Dipper is an actual dipper. This is the antediluvians. Well, that's pretty interesting. Anyway, so what do you think of that, Fizzy Creature? I know he's apparently not going to watch this video. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll change his mind. Might have to title this video something something clickbaity, or I don't know. But yeah. So, what do you think of that, dude? Tell me. The answer to that is very simple: free will. He created man and woman knowing they could choose to disobey him and eat of the apple or whatever fruit it was. He was hoping Adam and Eve would choose to trust God and obey him, but they did not. Okay. Then he says, the issue is if God was all-knowing, he created Adam with the knowledge that at some point he would create Eve and would eat that apple. The free will argument doesn't work because why is Adam being punished for something? Oh boy. God literally knew what happened from the beginning. The beginning of everything. This God literally cannot be all-knowing and all-loving. The story itself contradicts these statements. Now, he's making a decent point here. And I'll say, so it's interesting. Okay, I'll say this, right? Because if we talk about Jesus, there are moments when Jesus performed miracles, right? But it's not like Jesus always. It's very interesting. Okay, so just stay with me here. It's not like Jesus always performed miracles all the time. Like he didn't. Jesus chose not to use his unlimited power to just snap his fingers, or I guess he wouldn't even have to do that, but just to heal everybody who was sick. Every single person. He could have, because he's God, and he was God. But he didn't do that. And yeah, so like, what does that mean? Okay. As far as I can tell, it means something like this. God has unlimited power. He is infinite. But sometimes he chooses not to use that power, that unlimited power. And so, I mean, if we think of what Jesus said, I and the Father are one, um, he, well, it makes sense to say that the same thing probably applies to God the Father. So, could God have used his unlimited knowledge to, like, see into the future and know that Eve would, listen to the serpent, and then Adam would listen to Eve? Yes, I mean, I'm very hesitant to say that God couldn't have done something or can't do something. But again, if we look at Jesus, it's not like, I mean, for example, when he was on the cross, they mocked him. They said, if you're God, throw yourself down from this cross. He could have done it. He had the ability to, but he didn't. So yeah, I mean, just think about that, I guess. And then of course, he died, and then 3 days later he rose from the grave, and they're like, oh crap, this dude is actually God. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so again, like, there are mysteries, there are aspects of the fall that I'm sure I'll never understand fully, at least. But that is something I've thought about. It's like, because that's a good point. It's like, God knew that Eve would do that, so then why would he make? But again, I think, here's what I'll say another thing too, which I don't think I said in any of my replies, but logic only goes so far. Whoops, that is a fly. Like, do you think logic? Do you think everything can be explained with logic, especially God? Is that really what you think? Like, it's always appropriate to use logic. Now, I get your point, but logic only goes so far. I mean, so that's what I would say. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I fully understand. Oh yeah, this is what God was thinking or doing, But oh gosh, these freaking flies, dude. Fruit flies. So yeah, that's what I would say. I know it seems like a contradiction, but again, just because something seems like this has to be a contradiction doesn't necessarily mean it is, because of the fact that our perception is limited. Our understanding of reality is limited, especially of God. Like, how can you understand God? Like, so again, I know it looks like a contradiction, but again, like, we're mere humans. Also, free will is such a bad argument for why God allows suffering. Children born with cancer don't ask for it. Humans exposed to natural disasters do not bring them on themselves. As God is unjustly bringing pain upon people for absolutely no reason if he actually loves them. Again, just because it seems like no reason doesn't mean there isn't a reason. The way I see it, the Christian God cannot possibly be what created our universe, because the circumstances of our existence point to a God that doesn't love his creations. Again, looks that way maybe, but doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. God knew it could happen, but he gave Adam and Eve the choice. I'm not sure why you're asking me this question, though. You should be asking God. Maybe you'll get an answer. Maybe that was a bit of a dumb thing to say, I'll admit. And then I said to this question, no, suffering exists because humanity chose to sin, then sin entered the world. God created Eve knowing she would bring sin into the world. It's his fault if you think about it logically, but logic doesn't work with the Christian story, which is why y'all need blind faith so much. If God knew Eve would bring sin into the world, wouldn't that mean God brought sin into the world as he made Eve with the knowledge she would eat the apple? We at least concede, had God not made Eve, Adam would have never been cursed with sin. Not necessarily. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case. Can't ask the make-believe creature questions, so I'm asking someone who believes the creature exists. The being is a figment of your imagination. Only those with the imaginary friend are able to ask it questions. You should have answers if you expect people to believe what you believe. Why should I buy into your fable if you can't even make it make sense. It's like, well, I'm trying to, but and it's like, well, you said you do believe in a creator. Oh yeah, and they said also it's not he knew it could happen, he knew it would happen if this being is all knowing. Well, again, I think I already addressed that. So yeah, but yeah, I think that's all there is to say about that. Because then I think, let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm not saying there's not a creator. I'm saying the Christian God is not an accurate depiction of whatever created the universe. Unlike you, I'm capable of admitting I don't understand how the universe was created. While you are so egotistical, you genuinely believe you understand how the universe was created. It's like, dude, what led you to come to that conclusion? That I'm so egotistical, I genuinely believe I understand how the universe. I mean, I know it was spoken into existence. It says it in the Bible. But exactly what occurred, I ain't got a clue, man. I'm not gonna act like I understand that. So yeah, like, but so I guess yeah, I do believe I understand how the universe was created, but not like exactly in all the details. If you see what I mean? Because yeah, so look around you. If God doesn't exist, and who created all of this? Did it just magically appear? But so I guess what he's saying, like, whenever I said you should ask God, I mean, I guess I assumed that like he said, he does believe in a creator. I guess I thought that he, believed in a creator that could be, conversed with, but apparently he does not. So anyway, that was an assumption on my part. Yeah, my bad on that one for assuming that. It's extremely amusing to me that I've never tried to argue by saying, you just don't get it, or ask this made-up being, he'll give you the truth. You missed a comma there. My arguments are backed by logic and reason. Your argument is backed by blind faith. Well, not only by faith. I mean, someone here is smart. Someone here came up with a conclusion and searches for evidence to support that conclusion, while smart people analyze the evidence and make a conclusion based on the evidence. I mean, all right. Like, there's also evidence, too, that... and I talk about this in a minute. Just the fact that Jesus changed me. It's pretty good evidence as far as I'm concerned. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, like, go watch my video on the time I took 3.4 grams of shrooms. Go watch that video. It's a very big reason why I am a Christian. And, like, yeah, why I believe the Bible is 100% true. So, okay. And then my question is why your depiction of God, the only one that could possibly be true. You seem genuinely convinced your answer must be the correct one, even thought the story behind your answer is filled with contradictions. Again, sometimes something looks like a contradiction until more evidence more evidence comes out, or our understanding of said thing increases, and we realize, oh, it actually makes sense. And then he just kind of devolved into like fifth grader language, and someone is having a hard time finding which argument he's practiced to regurgitate. Is the poor baby not used? The poor baby, don't call me that. Not used to someone saying new things. To laughing, crying emojis. Just admit, you missed a question mark too. Just admit your story doesn't make sense, man. We all know you can see the contradictions. Pretending they aren't there won't make them go away, and it definitely won't make the story any more logical. For millennia, yeah, I don't think that's millennia. Christians weren't able to oppose arguments against Christianity because they were in control of the world, and now that they're forced to defend their story with logic, they're genuinely at a loss for words. Your story does not now, nor did it ever make sense. But for centuries, Christians were able to throw non-Christians in jail for their beliefs. That's the wrong there. Now that you actually have to defend your story, it is near impossible because of the countless contradictions. And then I say, look, all I can tell you is Jesus changed me. That's why I believe the Bible is the Word of God, and Jesus is the only way to God the Father. Also, just because it seems to be filled with contradictions doesn't mean it truly is. I'm not saying I understand precisely how the universe was created. I believe God spoke it into existence, as it says in the Bible. I'm not going to, for 1 second, act like I have any idea what exactly that looks like, but I will say I believe it happened. Let's see here, and then, whoops. Real mature. I'm talking about this. Again, sometimes there seems to be a contradiction somewhere when there actually isn't one. Humans are not perfect machines of perception. I believe. Zero logic, zero reason, 100% faith. It's really 100%. Like, moving on. You can never convince an idiot to change their POV. They will stick their feet in the ground and claim to be correct, even when every bit of the logical portion of their brain is telling them to change their mind. Good luck with your imaginary friends. The rest of us moved on from them in elementary school. Your contradiction is a contradiction. You saying it's not one does not change that. Short, logical answers only now. You've clearly realized your faith BS won't work. You don't get to change definitions of words because the definitions they have don't fit your made-up story. Your made-up story. Yet you seem to think your perception is good enough to know the nature of the being that created everything. Real mature. That emoji. Modern Christians are actually allergic to logic, and it's amusing. Again, I don't think anyone can fully comprehend the nature of God, but I do think we can keep learning about him. And I would say I have learned a fair bit about the nature of God over the past really couple months, especially 2 to 3 months. So yeah, I mean, that's what I have to say about that. And again, we have the Bible, which is the Word of God, so that helps us learn about God. You know, it's filled with stories of people who wrestled with God, and yeah, I mean it's inspired by God after all. So if your next comment is not backed by a single piece of logic and reason, I will not be responding. I won't continue to ask you to stop practicing to me. Just believe. Being a mindless sheep is not the life anyone should want to live. If you aren't going to show me you're capable of thinking, I'm moving on because I'd have a better time talking to a wall. At least it wouldn't constantly say completely illogical things to me, pretending they're based in fact. Again, like, what have I said that's like that? And I just said, have it your way, because I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, have it your way. And here we go here. There we go, ladies and gents, on the video titled, Have I Found the Dumbest Person on YT? The creator turns out to be one of the dumbest people I've had the displeasure of talking to. Yeah, laughing, crying emoji. Don't call other people stupid if you're not capable of logic yourself, goofball. Again, he calls me a goofball. And then I replied. It took me a little while. I was because I wasn't gonna reply, but then I was like, I wasn't gonna make a video about this either. But then I figured I probably should. So I said, "Are you dumb enough to repeat the dumb thing you just said?" Technically typed, because it's like, seriously. I mean, claiming I'm not capable of logic myself, like, really, dude? Come on. It's genuinely crazy to call anyone else dumb when you believe the creator of the universe loves you unconditionally and created you in his image, while denying literally every piece of logic that disagrees with your story. Either stop calling others dumb or explain the fairy tale you've convinced yourself is factual. Again, like, denying literally every piece of logic that disagrees with your story. I don't think that's accurate to say. I said I plan on making a video tomorrow, technically today, because this was like 12:30 when I typed this. Analyzing our conversation and elaborating on my comments. Please don't delete any of your comments. You're joking, right? You think I respect you enough to watch an entire video of your illogical nonsense? I'm not expecting you necessarily to watch it. I'm thinking other people might be able to watch it and get something out of it. Even when you're not even capable of producing a single comment actually worth reading. You're a joke, dude. There's a reason your channel not taking off. You want to make a video so you can preach without having anything said back to you. I've already made it clear I will not just be talked at, because Christians are amazing at blabbing what they like and ignoring the other side. If you plan on even remotely do that, I'm just going to ignore you. I've made it clear you will debate, not preach irrational thoughts without wanting to be contested. It seems our conversation will be ending here, as you actually intend to make a video attempting to preach without being contested. I'll be blocking you before this video is posted, as you are clearly over being debated and would like to just talk without me being able to challenge what you say. Have a thoroughly awful life. If you continue to use fairy tales is what he meant to say. If you continue to use, dude, you gotta learn how to write, man. Like, people are like, oh, it doesn't matter about grammatical error. Like, bro, sometimes if it's this bad, it kind of matters, because then I don't even know what you're saying. If you continue to use fairy tales, he's meant to say, to justify hating certain people, I would genuinely have never been happier to block someone. And then I replied to this comment actually, and said, "You're free to leave your thoughts in the comments on the video when it comes out tomorrow, or perhaps the day after. I might be busy tomorrow. If you think that's a waste of time, as you clearly do, that's fine. However, your arguments are full of assumptions, which I will point out in the video." So yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'll leave you to decide who's the dumb person, who's the logical person, who's the illogical person. I'm obviously not perfect, but and also I love comments like this too. Just kind of changing topics a little bit. Like comments like this: "The hate you give to others will only be handed back to you." And I say, "Where exactly have I been hateful?" And they just don't reply. So like now, maybe they'll reply a little bit after, but I replied pretty soon after this comment was left. So anyway, oh yeah, and then there's this one. Yeah. Anyway, so what do you think based on everything I've said? Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Overall, it's just, again, I told him, I'm like, you're free to leave comments on this video, and he is. Like, I mean, if you're watching this, dude, please, or make your own response video. But if you're just gonna use ad hominems and just, attack me, then, well, I mean, you can do that, but it's not a very mature thing to do. So, anyway, all right, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching, and yeah, take care. God bless, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.